and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Ron Vecchia, and this is one of our special editions. It's called Me and the Manager. And joining me today is our new town manager, Austin Faison. Austin, welcome to Winthrop. Welcome to Community Forum.
Thank you very much.
You got 5 weeks under your belt, and how do you feel?
It's been 5 interesting weeks. I'll
That's
say
for
that
sure.
much. It's been good so far. It's been a great learning experience about what the community of Winthrop really values, what the local municipal officials are looking to accomplish in the near future, and really talking to my staff about things they'd like acted upon, things that they're passionate about, and really learning how Winthrop runs and how it's been run in the past. I don't really feel like I can effectively do my job if I don't have the context concerning how decisions were made and why money moved the way that it did over time. So I have been trying to learn as much as possible on previous decisions so I can better react in the future for the town.
Now, I know attending some of your staff meetings, it's interesting how you handle your people, your department heads. You want them to make the decisions. You don't want to make the decisions for them, and you're trying to walk them through this whole re-education of how you want to govern or how you want to manage.
Sure. So, I've learned from different managers over my career. My last town administrator that I worked for, Mel Kleckner, was quite influential in part of my management style. With staff meetings, what I'm trying to do with employees is, and the department heads specifically, is make them feel empowered to make decisions on their own. I can't make every decision for them, and I can't run every department by myself.
Right.
If I was trying to do that, then I wouldn't have department heads. We have department heads in place to kind of run departments. They are specialists in their fields, and I want to rely on their expertise. And there's no time that I will know everything that's happening in the community, and what I need to do is kind of build them up so they do feel like they have decision-making authority. And when there are bigger items, they can run it by me, but I try as much as possible to help them feel like it's a flat style government with myself in my position, and then the department heads all kind of in a line that I value the department heads equally. I value the work that they do equally, and I trust them to pursue the best avenues to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish within their department. If they're not doing that, then that's something we can discuss down the line.
Right.
But I'm trying to set expectations that I'm really looking for them to be the subject matter experts in kind of the position that they're tasked with.
Now, we have 2 positions that you have open. You've got a CFO's position, and you also have a assistant town manager.
Sure.
And I know the council was very interested passing a resolution to hire a planner at some point. And I understand part of your whole philosophy, a thought process in terms of a new assistant town manager is to have someone with a background of planning.
Sure. So, I updated the assistant town manager position description after Joe left. Joe was an asset to this town, and he did a great job, and he's going to do a great job in Hamilton. So it's some big shoes to fill. That job kind of changed over the time when Joe was in it, and even kind of how it came about when Joe started it. So now that I'm here, I can kind of look at it with a fresh set of eyes. Kind of message received concerning the planner. I know how difficult planning and zoning can be with communities, especially with a fair amount of development happening. So it's very important to me that whoever kind of gets that position of the assistant town manager has a background in things like land use zoning, the legal issues concerning land use, planning, urban planning, like vision scoping with the community and things like that, because I'm going to need help with the money and working with you guys, with the council, and kind of managing some of the department heads and things like that. But what we really do need is help with the planning. We have a finite amount of work concerning planning ahead of us, but it is definitely a few years worth of work and public meetings and getting out in front of people. And that position, I'm looking at resumes right now. I'm looking at people with extensive planning experience in their past, community development, those types of things. We have a good opportunity to get a good person on staff that can really hit the ground running for this and ensure that we are being both transparent with the community and effective in our communications concerning any of the upcoming projects that are going to be happening, because there is going to be a fair amount of work that's done around town, no matter what.
I think that's probably one of the biggest criticisms in past projects in the community, especially the center project, has been the miscommunications between the businesses and the neighborhoods affected by that area. How do you see this person's role in terms of, are they going to be like a diplomat out in the neighborhood type of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There, I have gone through different community visioning processes in Somerville and Brookline. In Somerville, in East Somerville, when we were doing Broadway there, staff members from our planning department went into a vacant property and operated out of there for a couple weeks. And they held community meetings there. They had visioning of what the streetscape would look like. They really brought it to the people in that community. So they had the opportunity to interact with some of the design plans, comment on them. We did one of those word cloud things where the words that were used most frequently were bigger. There was a real engagement with the community. And that's what I kind of stress in my interviews here, and that's what I will continue to stress, is that this is the community's money, and this is the community having the ability to advocate for what they're looking to do and empower the local officials to kind of pursue their wants and needs. And you're never going to get to consensus if you don't actually ask people to participate and give them the opportunity to kind of advocate for themselves. So it's of the utmost importance to me that we are transparent and we're trusted by the community. I think some of that trust has been eroded over time, and I'm looking to rebuild that. And I'm trying to be as frank and open and honest and forthcoming with information so that people really understand that I'm trying to be as objective as possible in many of these decisions. I think there are best ways to do some of the work, but ultimately, a fair amount of this lives with the community and with the council. And there will come a time that I don't work for Winthrop, and I want there to be a community that has come together and has some good projects after I leave. And I can't do that if the community isn't on board with the work that's being done. So transparency is just of the utmost importance, and I want them to have those local meetings. And the same type of ideology follows how I would like the budget process to go forward, how I would like to be transparent concerning the finances within the town. I want really people to almost be inundated with information so that they can see however decision is made, and you can spin numbers whichever way you want, but it's really important to me that people be able to see all of the information involved with the project, and they can judge it themselves. But once a decision is made, we will go forward with that project, and we will again make it publicly available, any plans, any engineering spec ups, and construction schedules and things like that going forward. So transparency is a huge thing with me.
Yeah.
You can't operate in a modern government without it, or a modern company, or anything like that. It's what is expected of the constituents, and it's, to me, one of the least things that we can do in performing the services that we do.
Our relationship with the school department, how do you see that?
So I think it is good. I have a good relationship with Lisa so far. She's new as well to that position. She is working incredibly hard. She has support staff there, but it's not like she has a bunch of assistant superintendents that she can send out into the field. She's hitting the pavement. She is in the schools when they were opening. She's at the first football game and things like that. She's doing the things to make sure that people know that she's there and she has a presence, but also she's trying to navigate. Schools are a complex financial system, and going back to the CFO role, I would much like our new CFO to be school business manager certified so that they can help Lisa and her staff advocate for themselves financially, seek grants, make sure that they're reporting back to the state, whether it's DESE or different grants and things like that. They need someone who can really, that knows how that cycle happens, and that is part of the job description for that position as well. It's very important to me that we are working together on this process. And then when it comes to the budget itself, I really look forward to working with the CFO, assistant town manager, Lisa, some of our finance staff, and some of Lisa's finance staff, and working through our budgets together. I look at the school department as a department of the town. It's not town versus school or anything like that. They are our largest department. They employ the most employees. I think they're the largest employer in town. It's important that we pay attention to them and their budget. I hope that, and I will be proceeding under the auspices that we will be presenting balanced school and town budgets to the school committee and to the town council and to the finance committee. And we will not be changing things on the fly. If those committees want to move money around, if they want to fund something, they will have to suggest a place to cut. And the only way we can really get to that point is working together. And I do have a budgetary background, but I know that you have to get people in the room, let them advocate for what they're looking for, and have conversations about kind of the financial difficulties that a community is facing, so that you can most effectively move forward. So I think it's a good relationship so far. We were just talking yesterday morning, but
I know we had discussion too about the situation with the kindergarten. The overcrowdedness, and you're trying to create some type of
So, you know, I understand that our kindergartens right now are a little overcrowded. Not unique to just Winthrop. It's an issue that's happening all over the Metro Boston area. It is a popular international city now, and people are spending, whether it's a $50,000 house or a $50 million house, people are moving here with kids to be close to where they work. And our schools are amazing. We have the best schools in the country. So that is why people want to live in this area. It is a huge problem in Brookline, where I come from. They're somewhat in an enrollment crisis, and they're looking for a siting of a location for a 9th K through 8 school. Many schools are feeling the same type of pressure. So luckily, we should be able to do some good work with that and be able to come up with a solution very shortly. I have young kids. I don't want my kids in an overcrowded classroom either. So I am very cognizant to that issue, and we're going to be looking to rectify it as soon as possible through a funding source to be determined.
Good. So you had your first event. You went to the I Love Winthrop event, which was this past Saturday, which was a great success, as it was last year. What was your impression?
It was great. I mean, I heard Winthrop. I brought this up last night at the council meeting. It is a good event to have people come out, have a drink with your neighbor, eat some food, listen to some music. All the tables that were set up with the different community organizations, the different businesses, it gets people out of their houses, out of the AC and things like that, and interacting with their fellow community members. So fellow Winthropites, is that what is that how we say it?
Yep.
And I've seen this work in other communities. In Davis Square in Somerville, when I was the traffic and parking director, we would shut it off for road races, generally almost every weekend of the summer, because it was a popular place, and we'd have races end there. People get to have a couple drinks afterwards, and a community comes together. And we can do that here. There's no reason why Winthrop shouldn't. It has events already, but we should be looking to figure out how we can have more of the events and more opportunities for not just a place to drop off your kids so your kids can do an event and all the parents stand around, but how can we have these kind of multi-generational events that bring our kids, bring our adults, bring our seniors together, because then kind of people lose their defenses in those things. And some of the things that people are at odds about, those things go away. It's the same thing as like watching a sport together or whatever. We're all on the same team. The people who are there, they're from Winthrop, or they had a reason to come to Winthrop, and I want to keep giving people a reason to come out. I want them to be able to kind of get the T-shirt, which I got. It's a nice looking T-shirt. Bring their kids. I mean, my daughter ate a lot of ice cream and had some candy. My son was having fun as well, and my wife had fun too. It was just a good day, and it's an example of what that center business district can look like when it's fully activated. And I really, really think that it's a model for how we should have some events in the future in Winthrop, and it's hopefully something that we can kind of have a little bit more frequently, because even with that, not that there's things that they could do better, but there are ways that they would be able to expand it a little bit and make it even more fun for people.
Yeah. I know we, at the beginning of the season in the spring, we did Harbor Day down on the public landing.
Okay.
And it was all around trying to get people more used to going down to the public landing. We have a ferry, and the ferry we're into our third fiscal year on it, and it wasn't performing well. And one of my commitments I made when I ran for town council president was to work on it and see if we could get this thing turned around. So the use was picked up and so forth. So as you probably know, we're finally in the black as far as it running. It's not part of the budget process anymore. It's an opportunity to bring people to Winthrop to use our restaurants and so forth. And this all ties in with I Love Winthrop or Harbor Day, or they did music on the down there 2 weeks ago, down on the public landing. So I think all of these activities are so important, not only for Winthropites, but to bring people into Winthrop, to to bring commerce into the Winthrop. So it's good to see you enthusiastic about this. Let's talk about last night's council meeting, because we took a huge step forward in coming up with a solution for the center and starting to move forward. Tell us what we did last night.
Sure. So what happened last night was the town council authorized borrowing under what's called an SRF. And we're going to be borrowing, and the way we're going to fund the debt schedule for that is through our water sewer rates. And we also received grants, a Mass Works grant, a Complete Streets grant, those types of things. This is a big step forward because it is a project that has been discussed for a long time, and it is infrastructure work that's been needed for a long time. You and I spoke about when you previously retrofitted that square in the 80s, which, showing my age, was around when I was born. And nothing...
Shows my age.
Yeah. Nothing was done underground.
That's right.
At that time.
It's all surface.
That work needs to be attended to every so often. There's clay down there, there's cast iron pipes, there's gross things that we wouldn't want to see. And that's why those things back up. It's just years and years of not neglect, but just use. It's use. Those things aren't made to last forever. And what this vote did is we can do the underground work. We can do the water, sewer, drainage portion of the work. We're going to be speccing out a fair amount of the sidewalks as well, some of the curbing. We're going to use some of the landscape design that was used previously. But this sets the table for the redevelopment of the center business district. So it's going to be a 2-year project. It's going to be a headache for some people there, no question. It is not meant to be detrimental to the businesses that are in existence. If developers came in and wanted to redo every single building there, the first people that I would like them speaking to, if we thought it was a worthwhile project, are the businesses on the first floor, and how would they be able to augment that business in a reconstruction phase, and if they would give that business the opportunity to rent from them at the same type of rent type of thing. We have old buildings there. We have rodent problems. We have trash problems. There's some work to be done there on the above ground stuff. That said, we had to do this below ground first. We needed to do this. It shows that we have skin in the game. We're spending state money. That's a Mass Works grant. That was $2.38 million. we needed to use that money in the short term. We can't keep kicking it down the road, because every time we kick it down the road, there's days like yesterday when it rained out pretty hard and it floods in town. And that flooding happens because of our infrastructure.
Right.
And if that storm didn't hit North Carolina first and it hit us first, it is kind of scary to think of what could happen. It's not necessarily loss of life, but it's the change in livability.
Right.
I lived in Miami when Katrina and Wilma happened. Katrina, we didn't have power for 3 days. Wilma, I had to kind of flee Miami and go up to Tampa, where my aunt and uncle live with my cousins. I know what the impacts of that these types of things have, and the only way we can deal with some of them, I know catastrophic things you can't necessarily plan for, but these normal rain type of things, we should be able to handle that water.
Right.
And we should not have our businesses and the properties that are in what we call our center business district and somewhat of part of the crown jewel nature of Winthrop. We need to ensure that it can look a certain way, and that people can, if they're going to make an investment there, that if they put a garage underground, it's not going to flood every day because the infrastructure is bad. So this is a first step, but it's a good first step.
How do we use the developers that we have several projects down the center that are on the drawing board?
Yep.
And several of which are ready to move forward. How do we utilize, how do we use our leverage in terms of getting these developers to contribute to the surface work and in the beauty part of the project?
Sure. So with any project, we're going to have a mitigation phase, and mitigation is really us getting some type of benefit from that. A developer could come in, drop 40 units in somewhere, they'll make their money and they can go away. But we want to ensure that they're giving back to the community something more than just a building. They're going to work on the sidewalks in front of their place. We're going to make them work on the sidewalks the way that we want them to. We have a pretty close to a plan in place of what above ground can look like. The streets, the sidewalks, the bump outs, vegetation, things like that. We can inform them of what we're looking for it, but we don't at this point want an amount of money because a project is happening. We would love to negotiate for an amount of money, but getting that square finished above ground is what's important. And we're doing some of the above ground work ourselves within this project, but we're going to have to rely on developers on this. And when we have the opportunity to negotiate on our behalf, we're going to be negotiating for the beautification of that square. Those property values and those rents that they'll be able to charge, whether it's commercial business or rentals, is going to go up if that square looks better. And they can help that. They can donate to things like I Love Winthrop. They can work to bring other type of food truck festivals or things like that there that we can put onto them to be a good neighbor. Show that you are investing in this community, and show the people that you're not just trying to impede on their lives for a period of years during a construction phase, and then you're just leaving. So this is the opportunity for us to really utilize that process to benefit Winthrop in the long term and take care of some necessary work. I mean, that, again, those pavers, those things like that, 30 years old, they need work, and we have the opportunity to kind of re-beautify.
So how does everything fit in terms of where we go as far as the middle school project that's been sitting there for several years?
Yep. So middle school project has not been forgotten whatsoever. This Center Business District project, in my mind, sets the table to get to a middle school project that we would like. There are proposals out there, which I've seen some of, and some of them bring unique perspectives to it. And I'm not saying any of them are right or wrong, but I want this community to come together and make a decision on what the middle school site could be. And we can't get to that point if we don't have a public process. And we also present to developers, not just, we want a project there, what do you got? But we have an idea of a project that we would like. Here are the things we're looking for, and you tell us what that project looks like and if that's a feasible project for you. So any developer that comes in here is going to have to deal with the infrastructure work on that site. There's necessary water, sewer, electrical work to be done. There's also the rink, which is at this point dependent on the physical structure of the middle school. And the council has voted previously to pursue improvements to the rink, and for locker rooms. But again, is it something that we necessarily want to take on paying for ourselves when this could be something that is part of a bigger project? And in bigger project, it doesn't mean the rink gets torn down. Maybe it gets built around. Maybe the rink gets moved to, or maybe they build the rink in another part of the site and then take down the building with the rink as well. I don't know how that looks, but there's a plethora of good ideas on the table. I think your idea about kind of retrofitting the auditorium to make that into a community theater, I think that's a good idea. And if there's a way that's feasible, then it would be something worth pursuing. I've also heard ideas like a boutique hotel. You can build up there a little bit, and you're not going to be able to really beat that view. You have a nice view in a lot of different directions up there, whether it's apartments or condos or a hotel. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that can happen on that site. But I think we needed to first invest in the center business district to show that we're trying on our own to make this community better, first of all. And infrastructure isn't sexy, but it's something that's necessary. Right. And in doing that, we show a developer, we're serious. We're at the table. We want this site to be redone, and we have some ideas. How are we going to make this work? And I personally don't want to be borrowing for a project like that. I want the infrastructure work to be on a developer that would come. It's a big site. There's a lot of different things they would do with it. We definitely have some needs from the community. I mean, the public safety building will come up at some point as well. And that could be a possibility too. So I'm very open to different ideas on that site, but I think we really have to have a public process with it and allow different stakeholders to really come to the table and advocate on their behalf, and then work as a community, again, assistant town manager, and some others, work as a community to try to come into a consensus of what we want as a community. I don't want it to be a third of people were on board with this project and then a quarter is on board with another project, that type of thing. I wanna have a development that looks good, and then we present it to the community, and then it's somewhat of a binary decision. It can be a yes or no, but we got to get to that point of presenting a yes or no project, and how we could maybe have a couple variables in that project, but is it a good project, yes or no, instead of I want this or I want that. That's the community process that we can kind of do and then present to a developer.
I know with the first time we were together, we spent about 3 hours touring the town, and you made a lot of observations about the future in certain areas, whether it was down Shirley Street, which is down the beach, and so forth. We also talked a lot about the outside forces that are, very much part of Winthrop. I'm speaking about Massport and the MWRA. And I know we met with the speaker and our senator with the hopes of trying to get some doors reopened as far as mitigation packages that are on the boards for the next maybe 10 years. And I think we've made some success in especially with Massport. Can you just kind of bring us, the folks, up to date on where we are?
So with Massport, we will be meeting with Massport, representatives from Massport, along, I believe, with the speaker and the senator, or the speaker and the senator are going to facilitate that conversation. But we will be reopening the pilot that we have with them. I'm not sure how the money will shake out, but the previous pilot did not have any inflators for things like consumer price index or inflation or anything like that. So it was an amount of money. The business that's been happening at the airport has increased over time. I hear from constituents in certain areas that they feel like they're more impacted by it. And we will sit down at the table and talk about the mitigating circumstances that we can deal with them. And again, we're getting to the table and we're going to have a conversation. I can't say how the conversation is going to go, but at least we are taking the opportunity to reopen the conversation, which is something that I kind of have the luxury of, being new to the position, in that I can revisit a fair amount of things. With MWRA, it's the same thing. My public works director in Brookline is on the board. I just was emailing with Fred Lasky yesterday. We will be advocating for our own interests with MWRA. The most prevalent things right now, the fishing pier, that parking area, security down there, those things are all on my radar. It's with the security and the park, it falls into this nebulous intergovernmental type of thing, but I do see particularly a way forward in that we could potentially have MWRA maintain the property and have DCR inform the security for the property and treating it similar to other beaches or other parks and things like that. But I also look at that area, and this is kind of off the topic of MWRA, but that area right there, there's a vacant property right next to that parking lot, and there's already people there every weekend that it's nice out, and even weekends when it's not nice out. It's a nice walk to do. And just the idea of getting an ice cream there, or a lobster roll, or almost a cool drink, anything. Right. That is another space that I see that I think could be activated, and it's not necessarily going to benefit Winthrop, but it will benefit, Winthrop would be an ancillary benefit to that. It's more people driving to a part through Winthrop to get to a place and realizing the things that the community can offer. And I kind of always look at restaurants, sadly. We were just talking about restaurants before. But I always talk about restaurants in terms of the nature of the economy right now. People are using their disposable income on eating out. I have no idea how so many restaurants continue to open without lots of them closing. But you look at lots of these major development projects that are happening, and they're based around food. Assembly Square, the first places that were open there were restaurants. Right. And that's what brought people there. Before the outlets, before the movie theater, anything like that, it was food. Same thing with Legacy Place in Dedham. The University Station in Westwood is built around like a Wegmans and a Target and food. A lot of these places, people go into a place for food. People will come to our center business district because of Blackstrap, La Siesta, those types of things. Maybe they're getting their haircut and stuff like that. But when those places are at capacity, it shows that there's more people that would be willing to eat out in those places. And if people are coming here to eat out, they're willing to spend money, and they're willing to spend money on other things too. So it's really just, how do we activate these little pockets of spaces and get people to come to them? Even walking down the street from Town Hall to WCAT, you see little pockets of businesses that you almost look at and say, like, what could this little area be if this was outside, or there's a reason for, like, the comics book store and the video game store and stuff like that. Like, what's drawing people to be there type of thing, and how can we help people kind of see that as a place to go and type of thing, and how do we, even though it's a street that's kind of going off of the square right there with Town Hall and the police station and things like that, how do we make that feel like a square in itself as well? Lots of communities have their multiple squares, and they have almost different events in different squares, and that's the dream of, to me, of the I Love Winthrop. It's not just in the center business district. It hops from place to place, just like you said, at the landing. There's a few different places that can happen, and it's great. It gives people a reason to go to a different part of town that they may not go to all the time. Bring in some outsiders. It can work great.
This discussion to be continued.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me on this edition of, Me and the Manager. We'll be doing this on a routine basis, I hope.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you for joining, Austin. Good seeing you. That's Me and the Manager, and we'll see you next time on WCAT. Thank you.